Welcome in, everybody, to episode number 4 of the Real Bros podcast. I'm your host, Austin Real, joined, as always, with my brother and co-host, Ethan Real. Ethan, Lakers lost the other night. How are we feeling?
Man, it's a good question there. I'm not 100% to how, not 100% know how to feel right now about it. On a scale of 1 to 10 of how concerned I am, I'd probably say I'm about 5. It is game one. Game one is kind of always a feel out game, but the concern is that we lost home court right away. And the way that Minnesota was able to just generate open shots the entire game is pretty concerning, I would say. And yeah, we'll see what happens. The Lakers are going to have to make adjustments for this game too, and this is a lot of pressure on them going into game two here. But I think the Lakers are going to get it turned around here and get the series back on track tomorrow night.
Are we still confident in the Lakers in 5, or are we thinking it's going to go a little bit more than that?
Hey man, all I'm saying is if I go back to the 2020 championship for the Lakers, they started their first 2 series losing game 1 and 1 and 5 in both those series. So it's not out of the question. I do think this is probably going to be a longer series now. I just think that Minnesota's their ability to collapse the paint and generate open shots. Like out of their 42 threes they shot in that game on Saturday, 41 of them were considered open to wide open.
Yeah.
And when you got guys like Nasrid making 6 of those, and got guys like DiVincenzo and Conley and obviously Ant-Man and McDaniels pitched in another 3 threes. Any team's going to be hard to beat when they're getting open shots like that and they're making them. So
For sure.
Lakers are going to have to make some adjustments and they're going to have to play Ant-Man a little more one-on-one and kind of live with the results there. But they cannot let all the role players get going. If Ant-Man gives you 35, 40, I would live with those chances over everyone on their bench,
Yeah.
going off for 5, 6 threes. That's where you're kind of going to get crushed at. So we'll see what adjustments they make.
For sure. I still feel good about Lakers in 6, but it's definitely gonna. I didn't think it was gonna be an easy one. Definitely a tough series. Anytime you're going up against players like Anthony Edwards, he's not gonna make it easy on you. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in that series. But that's not what we're gonna talk about today. We're gonna be jumping into the NFL with the NFL draft right around the corner this Thursday. We are gonna do an alternating mock draft. I'll be starting with the first pick. So that's kind of the topic for this evening, and I'm looking forward to it because I love the draft. I've said it before, it's my favorite time of the year. It's my favorite sports spectacle that goes on. I love the draft, so excited to jump into this, and we'll go pick by pick and kind of break down why we expect these picks to happen. So all right, so we're going to go ahead and get started here with this mock draft, and I'm up with the first pick. It's Tennessee Titans, and keep it simple. They're gonna go Cam Ward on this one. This seems to be the consensus pick amongst everybody. It seems to be really the only option they're gonna go. They need a quarterback desperately. I don't have Cam Ward as the best prospect in this class by any means, but they tried with Will Levis. He was not the answer. Yeah, clearly not the answer. So they bring in Ward, strong arm quarterback. He showed that he can process a defense, and whether that translates to the NFL level, we'll see. But I think it's a good fit, good spot for him, and gets paired with guys like Calvin Ridley and Tony Pollard in the backfield. So I think it makes sense. And he was already seen on Fortnite talking about all of his favorite players and mentioning all the Titans players. So I think it's pretty much set in stone that he's going to be the pick there at 1. And so the next pick will be the Browns. They're up at 2, and this is your pick. So who do you have the Browns taking?
Yeah, I'm going to keep it in the kind of the same direction we started our last mock draft with. I think we do have a couple changes here this go around as we've kind of thought some things through and kind of did a little bit more insight on what teams really are needing here. But man, with the Browns, it is a tough one because you have an Abdul Carter sitting there who, in my opinion, is the best player in the draft. But I think the Browns are in so much trouble, with the quarterback position, and they need to surround that quarterback with their quarterback with as much talent as they can. And a guy like Travis Hunter that can play both sides of the ball and can bring you extreme value on both sides. I just think that's too valuable for them to pass up at this time. And so for me, I think the Browns are going to go Travis Hunter, and man, just take that. Take him there and take the value you can get from him on both sides. I think that's kind of a win situation, and Travis Hunter I think goes off the board there.
Yeah, I agree. I've been saying it for a long time that he'd be the number 2 pick to the Browns, and really the reason why is I just feel like for them to kind of get their fans excited, he's the most exciting player that you could possibly bring in. Play both sides of the ball. How does that work? How do they implement him? Is he an offensive player, defensive player first? I think it makes sense. And their general manager, Andrew Berry, loves him and has been very open about that. So I think Travis Hunter, number 2, is for sure the route they're going to end up going. Just going to bring up the 3rd pick, the Giants. And I honestly think this is a more interesting pick than people are giving credit to. Obviously, if Ward and Hunter are the first 2 picks, Abdul Carter's got to be the pick here. I mean, he is on a lot of people's boards the best player in the draft, including mine and yours. And I think that's the route they go. In this mock draft, we're not going to do any trades, but if there were to be a spot that I could see a team trading, it could potentially be the Giants, and I think it could only potentially be them if they have considerations to draft a quarterback. Like Sanders, as we're kind of anticipating him to fall a little bit. So if they want to move back, it'd be an open door for a team like the Bears or the 49ers that could use an edge rusher to move up and grab Abdul Carter. But in this scenario, we're going to say the Giants hold on to 3 and they take Abdul Carter. I think it's just the smartest pick for them. They added a pass rusher to this team. This dude is Micah Parsons 2.0, as we've talked about. That's the comparison that you hear amongst everybody. And I think it's true. I think he's going to be that great. He's going to be a Pro Bowl level pass rusher. So you can't go wrong. You go this route if Sanders is not your guy for quarterback. You've already made the moves to bring in quarterbacks like Russell Wilson and Jameis, so I really don't see them going quarterback at all, and no other player makes more sense than Abdul Carter here at 3. So if they go Carter at 3, that brings the Patriots up at 4, and you're up with the Patriots.
Yeah, and kind of going on for our last mock draft here, we were definitely having conversations for the Giants going, possibly Shedeur Sanders there. At that 3rd pick. And man, the more that we both kind of thought about it, the more that we just kind of think it makes sense to just go ahead and take Abdul Carter. I know the Giants don't necessarily need defensive line help between Lawrence and Burns and Thibodeau, and they already have guys on their defensive line that that they put some money into. But man, Abdul Carter is just. He's just too much. He's just too much of a problem to really pass up, and what you're going to be getting out of him. He's almost as close to a lock as you can certainly get in this draft, and I really do think that's the case there. But
to add to that point, real quick, yeah, like you can never have enough pass rushers, especially in the NFC East, where everyone they're going up against, all those NFC East teams, they have a very good quarterback. So why not add a pass rusher? If you're not going to be able to get that quarterback that you want, that you're super high on, pass rusher and try to beat him with defense.
Yeah, because Jaden Daniels is not slowing down anytime soon, and obviously we know same with Jalen Hurts and Prescott and whatnot. But yeah, he's just too much of a talent to pass up. So I agree with you there on the Abdul Carter at 3, which in that case, if that's where the draft falls there, and all 3, Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are off the board there, coming down to the Patriots. I think the Patriots play it safe and go offensive line. Originally, we had Will Campbell falling down to 10, falling to Chicago. But with the way that the first 3 picks have fallen, I would say that would be probably where Will Campbell would end up at, was with the Patriots. Now, if Shador does go to the Giants, then don't be surprised if Will Campbell falls all the way down to 10. That's definitely a possibility in this draft. But with the way we have things going here, I got New England taking Will Campbell there, and that's mostly just because obviously you got Drake May, who's a rookie last year, coming into his second year. You're hoping that he takes that second year jump, along with some of these other rookie quarterbacks that came into the NFL last year. And what a better way to do that than bringing in a top stud left tackle that can certainly help him out. Because we know it's no secret that New England struggled with pass protection last year. So I think they take the safe pick there. They go Will Campbell, and they look to protect. Their young quarterback in the future.
I couldn't agree more. They need desperate help at that position, and Will Campbell's more of a versatile guy that you can grab and throw him in on that line. It makes more sense for that team. I would agree that if that's the first three picks, unless they trade back, I think Will Campbell's the pick there. And that brings up the Jaguars at pick number 5. And this is one I've kind of wrestled with a little bit lately. I was real certain it was going to be Mason Graham from the beginning, but I've started to consider that it could be a guy like Jalen Walker, or it's a good spot for that team to move up and jump in front of the Raiders there at 6, with Genty being that projected pick there at 6. So a team, like the Bears, even we've mentioned them. I think they're with 2 second-round picks and some draft capital there and some players that they could move, or a prime team that could move up. I don't know if they will, but in this case, Jaguars will say they stay at 5 and they play it safe. They get their defensive tackle. They get Mason Graham out of Michigan. Just a good fit. He's a big-bodied player that can come right in and play at a high level and fill a big need there for Jacksonville. So it's a player I know they like, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go a different route and like a Jalen Walker, because I've seen him across many mocks being considered right there with Abdul Carter by some analysts, and some people have him further down their list. So wouldn't be surprised if they go a different route, but I think Mason Graham's the safest pick there for him and fills the biggest need. And that's going to bring up the Raiders at 6, which I just mentioned a minute ago, and you will be up with that pick. So who do you have the Raiders going with at 6?
Yeah, I have the Raiders going Ashton Genty, but I fully agree with you there on the Jacksonville side. I mean, certainly don't be surprised if you see a team move up there in a trade to pick number 5 there. I don't know if it's 100% certain that the Raiders are going Genty, but everything is pointing in that direction that Genty is going there. So if a team like Chicago or another team that's desperate for a running back or is super sold on Genty wants to move up, certainly don't be surprised that to see Jacksonville possibly trade back, as they could use all the draft assets that they need, and they're not drafting BPA here, so they need a lot of stuff. So it would possibly make sense for them. But man, the Raiders are going to go Genty here. Genty's just a stud. I mean, we've seen a lot of great college running backs, but man, there's not been a lot that just have shown what he's shown, the balance, the break, the ability to break tackles, and just the ability to make people miss. I know he played, in Boise and didn't really play in the toughest conference in the world. And, when he went up against Penn State, he, didn't have his best game of the season, but I mean, teams were literally game planning to specifically stop him and him only, and he was still putting up ludicrous numbers. And just go back and watch the tape. I mean, this guy is a freak. This guy is gonna be a heck of a football player in the NFL. I do believe that. And if he's sitting there if he's sitting there when the Raiders come up to draft, man, I unfortunately think he's gonna get picked there, unfortunately. And would love to see him fall to 10 to Chicago, but Raiders take Genty and we don't get him. So we'll see how it works out, though.
Yeah, I know us Bears fans are really hoping he falls, but I hope from a Bears fan perspective that he falls and they don't move up to get him, because I don't know what it's going to take to try to move up to 5 or to a spot ahead of the Raiders. Yeah. I love the 2 second round. I like that we have 2 second round picks. I don't want to see them get rid of those. or cut it even down to 1 second-round pick. So
Yeah, we know that typically moving up for premier players like that, usually you kind of have to overpay in the draft. So it's hard saying on a point system how it would add up. But I mean, at least there's one of their second rounds is bare minimum. Probably even more than that to move up, I would imagine. But
in some drafts, I'd be okay with it. But I look at this draft as having a lot of deep talent at so many different positions. Whether it's line, whether it's pass rushers, whether it's a receiver, whether it's running back, there are so many valuable players and assets that they can add in that second round that I don't think this is the draft that you want to move those picks to try to go up and get Genty when there are other running backs that I do like a lot. I love Genty, and I think Genty is clearly, I have him as my 1A, like top of my list, but there are other running backs I like that I think would be good fits in Chicago. So. I would agree, and I agree with the pick, Genty here at 6. I've kind of brought this up a few times on podcasts, and we've had it showing on our streams. But we do have a Discord, and this is an article I wrote about specifically Genty going to the Raiders at 6. Why I think it's a good fit, and why I think they're going to go that direction. They've invested in bringing in an old coach in Pete Carroll. He doesn't have a ton of time. I mean, he's an older coach, and you invested in a quarterback by trading for Geno Smith, who's also in his mid-30s. So you make these moves, even if they're not necessarily going to win now. These are win-now moves, and I think Genty's your best bet to add to that and to give you the best chance to be as competitive as possible and to be a playoff team. So anyone that wants to join the Discord, that link will be in the description, and you can join us and then read the articles that we put out. But that's going to bring up the Jets at 7. And if this is how the first 6 picks go, I think this is a pretty easy one for these guys. I think they're going to go Armin Mimbu. They're going to add a lineman. They need line help. And they brought in Justin Fields. They're going to find out if he's that long-term option at quarterback. So protect your quarterback the best that you can. Mimbu is an absolute freak. He only allowed 1 sack over 12 games in 2024. Just a big, dominant offensive lineman. And so I think a lot of people have him ahead of Campbell as far as the rankings go. And just kind of depends on what type of lineman that you want. I think he's very talented, and I think he makes the most sense there at 7, which will bring up the Carolina Panthers at pick number 8. Who do you have the Panthers going with at 8?
Yeah, just going back 1 second real fast there. Yeah, the Jets certainly need to help Justin Fields any bit they can, because we certainly know Justin Fields has never had actual protection in the NFL. And us Bear fans, no matter how that whole situation worked out, we certainly are wishing Justin Fields the best. And hopefully they could actually get him protection so he can show what he's capable of doing. But anyway, going into pick 8 here with the Carolina Panthers. Man, talking about a team that needs help pretty much across the board. I mean, there's a lot of different directions this team could go. But I have them going Will Johnson. I know that there was some concerns with some injuries he's dealt with through college, but man, he's a ball hawker. I mean, 9 interceptions, 3 pick sixes over his last 32 games in in college football with Michigan. And one of the premier corners in this draft, and if it wasn't for a Travis Hunter, I mean, we'd probably be talking about this guy a whole lot differently. But like I said, Carolina could go a lot of different directions here. I wouldn't be surprised if they went a Jalen Walker or win an edge or another defensive player, or even potentially a wide receiver here in McMillan, possibly. I mean, I don't foresee that, but I mean, don't be surprised if they also go wide receiver. But yeah, I have him going Will Johnson. I think Will Johnson's a stud, and I think he'll end up being with the Panthers there.
Yeah, corner is a need of theirs for sure. This is kind of where we see a little difference. I do think they're gonna go Jalen Walker here. I think he's just too talented of a linebacker to. Just too high of a prospect to skip out on here at this pick, and he's from North Carolina. We mentioned this in the first episode. I just think he's a perfect fit there. But I do have a friend that's a Panthers fan, and I asked him who he wanted, and he wanted to go with McMillan. So they want some wide receiver help there on that Carolina team.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a pick that I don't know. This could be the a spot where they go any direction because, like you said, they need help across the board for sure. This is going to bring up the pick number 9, the New Orleans Saints. This is kind of the hot pick. All of a sudden, news came out that Derek Carr dealing with shoulder injury and could be missing this season potentially. And this opens the door for them to go quarterback. Now, I thought this is a position for a quarterback to be taken regardless, because I don't think Derek Carr is the answer, and I think they know it. I think he's a fine quarterback to have, and that can, be an average quarterback, keep you in games, maybe get you into the playoffs if you have the right players around them. But they need an answer there at quarterback, and I think they're going to go quarterback, and I think they're going to go with Shedeur Sanders. This is a player that I'm starting to see fall. Some people don't even think he's going to go in the first round all of a sudden. But he's got pinpoint accuracy, and while I don't have him rated as a top 10 prospect, I don't think he's really that far off. I think he's going to be a pretty good NFL quarterback. He can process and read a defense real well. Like I said, he's very accurate. Where he lacks is the power behind the ball when he's throwing it, but we've seen plenty of quarterbacks come in and succeed without having the Cam Ward type of spin on the ball and velocity that they throw with. So I think Sanders is the guy, whether he plays right away or not. I think it's a good fit for him, and I think makes the most sense. If he were to go before 9, I could even see them going with the Jackson Dart here at 9. I do think they're going quarterback is a strong possibility. That being said, the only other option I could see them going is a Tedoroa McMillan going with receiver. But I think with the news with Carr, I think they're going to end up going quarterback. Just going to bring up the Bears at 10. That's your pick.
Yeah. I'd say the Saints, they got to have someone to be able to throw the ball to McMillan to begin with. And, we like us some Ian Book as some Notre Dame fans over here, but I mean, someone's got to be able to throw the ball there.
For sure.
So I agree. I think they're going Shedeur there too. There's too many concerns with Derek Carr's health and his want to be in New Orleans and all that. So they'll go quarterback. But with the Bears, man, this is an interesting one here because I think if the draft, lays out exactly how we have it, laid out, there's a good chance they go defense here. Obviously, it never hurts to, add depth pieces in the trenches. And, there's also a chance they could go with Tyler Warren. Obviously, we know the freak Tyler Warren is and what his potential is in the NFL and what he, is capable of doing. That's an option. Another option would be a trade back here. I mean, there's definitely probably teams that are interested in Tyler Warren, and the Bears could be a possible trade back, place a team could trade with there. And then, a team like the Colts or even the Chargers. I mean, there's teams that are certainly looking to go tight end that possibly could want to trade up for a Tyler Warren. But man, I think if Jalen Walker's sitting there and there's no trade backs that make any sense for the Bears, you just go Jalen Walker. I mean, he's, one of the best pass rushers in this entire draft here. He's super adaptable. He can play pretty much anywhere on the defensive line. He can play some linebacker. Obviously, he's great at rushing the quarterback. Had 34 pressures this year and had a 17.2 pass win rate. So that's obviously, that doesn't lie. He's obviously winning his matchups, at an efficient rate there. And if he's sitting there at 10, I just think the Bears would go defensive edge there. And bolster that even more as they've done in free agency this free agency.
Yeah, I think that'd be a tough pick for them if Campbell's off the board, Genty's off the board. They're sitting there at 10. I'd love for them to go Warren. Jalen Walker's a hard guy to pass up, though. I think he's going to go in the top 10, so that makes it even tougher. But I could see them trading back in that scenario. And I've heard a lot of Bears fans mention that they like the idea of them trading back, especially if Genty's not there. So I could definitely see that. But Jalen Walker's a phenomenal player and would be able to fit right into that defense and really vastly improve that defense. That's going to bring up the 49ers at pick number 11. And this is where I've got them going Will Johnson and my mock. I think Will Johnson follows him. I think they need a corner really bad. But if Will Johnson's off the board like he is in this one, I think it's going to be Mike Green. He's the edge rusher out of Marshall. Um, just a phenomenal high motor player. He's a little undersized that people seem to think, but high motor, relentless. He to me is a big steal in this draft. He causes turnovers. He's just all over the place. Former wrestler in high school, was runner up as a sophomore in Virginia. So he knows how to use his leverage and to just be one of those players that can make a difference and an impact on defense. So he's one of my higher rated edge rushers in this draft. He went to Marshall, which obviously isn't a huge school in comparison to the Alabamas and Georgias, but I think he's going to become a really good football player and would be a steal there for the 49ers at 11 as they need a lot of help, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And that's going to bring up the Cowboys at pick 12. You went a route that kind of surprised me here. Who do you have the Cowboys with at 12?
I got the Cowboys going, and the reason why I have the Cowboys going in this direction is you always know that Jerry Jones is going to do exactly what nobody expects them to do, and they pretty much consistently do that year after year. And they like to take some chances on players. So I think the smart thing for the Cowboys would probably be to go wide receiver, give CD some help. CD's kind of having to carry all of their receiving on that team, and obviously Prescott having another target, whether it's a Matthew Golden or Luther Burden or whatever. There's receiver out, or McMillan obviously is there. If the draft falls the way we have it fallen, but I have him going Shamar Stewart, and man, I don't know why exactly I have him going Shamar Stewart. To be honest,
This is a Jerry Jones type of pick.
I just think that this is the Jerry Jones type of pick.
Yeah.
And he's a type of guy that's like, yeah, he doesn't have the greatest. You look at his numbers. You're looking at his numbers. You're like, this makes no sense, Jerry. But like, this guy is potentially, he's a freak. I mean, he's got crazy athleticism and crazy potential if he can develop. I mean, if this guy's a couple inches taller, this guy is literally LeBron James, bro. Like, he's 267, runs a 4.6 40, has a 40-inch vertical. Like that's LeBron James. That's LeBron James measurables there, And so obviously he's a freak athlete. And not saying LeBron would have been a number 12 pick in the NFL draft. Let me just make that perfectly clear right now. I'm just saying the guy's clearly a freak athlete. But yeah, I don't know. You can never have, like we were talking about with the Giants, you can never have enough help in the trenches. The more depth you have, the better. Micah is pretty much having to carry the load all by himself there. And I don't think having another edge in that group would be a bad thing. And this just seems like a pick Jerry would make. I don't know why, just gut feeling. This seems like a Jerry pick here.
Yeah, it's hard enough to fall in love with the intangibles and everything that he can bring to the table. Now, whether it translates, I guess we'll find out, but phenomenal athlete for sure. Wouldn't surprise me just because it is a total Jerry Jones thing to do, but please, from a fantasy standpoint, go get us either a running back or a wide receiver. CD needs the help. If they can get Tedero, if McMillan falls here and they pass on him, I won't understand it, only because it can't all be on CeeDee Lamb in the passing game. CeeDee Lamb played about 90% of the snaps in the slot as a rookie, and since then he's moved. He still plays quite a bit in the slot, but it's more of a 50-50 split. I think that offense could really thrive if they bumped his percentage in the slot a little bit more and got that up. Maybe not 90%, but up above the 50-54% range. And McMillan's the perfect guy to play on the outside. He's a big body, go up and get it type of guy that can really relieve some pressure off CeeDee Lamb, force them to have to guard Tedero and McMillan with one of their better corners. It's going to free up so much space for CeeDee Lamb. So from a fantasy standpoint, we'll love it. And for that offense and Dak Prescott, I'm sure they would love it as well. So hopefully they go McMillan there, but I won't be surprised if it's Hampton, and I suppose I won't be surprised if it's Shamar Stewart. And that's going to bring up the Dolphins at 13. I've recently kind of flipped on this pick. This is my original pick, and I have them going Tyler Booker, the guard out of Alabama. I think Booker is one of the best guards in this draft. Fills an immediate need. The Dolphins need help on the line, especially when you consider they have completely changed how that offense is ran out of fear of Tua getting hurt. He's just been hit so many times so hard that it has turned into a let's run the ball a million times or let's just dump it off. Let's not even give our receivers a chance to get downfield and throw this ball more than 5 yards down the field. They don't push the ball like they used to, and I think it's because of the fear of Tua getting hurt. And maybe that'll change, but the only way you can get to that change is by adding to the offensive line. And I think Booker or any lineman, any tackle would make sense. Like I said, I changed my pick recently, and I do think they're going to go Kelvin Banks here. But at the time that we did this mock originally, it was Booker. So either one of those guys I think makes sense for the Dolphins. And the only player I can think of that, if he was available, that they would go a different route is if Jalen Walker would fall to 13. I could see them adding Walker or a stud defensive player like that, but I think they need offensive line help really bad. So Tyler Booker's the pick there. Which brings up the Colts at 14. This is your pick. Who do you have the Colts going with at 14?
Yeah, and I agree with you there at 13. The Dolphins certainly need some offensive line help. They got what appears to be a disgruntled Tyreek Hill too, and the more time they can, the better they can, get that offensive line. The more time they can get to it to allow Tyreek to be able to, open up routes down the field, and just keeps everybody happy and keeps the culture better. And we'll see how that goes in Miami. But it seems to be things seem to be crumbling just a little bit from the outside looking in right now. But it's an easy one for the Colts. I mean, if Tyler Warren's sitting there, there's no doubt they're going Tyler Warren. They certainly need a tight end. And I mean, what a better one! What an option to fall to you at 14 if this is how it works out. I mean, that couldn't work out any better for the Colts if Tyler Warren falls to 14. And this guy's a stud, man. One at my big board, he's definitely up there. I actually have him in my top five. He's right at my five for best players available in this draft. I just see this guy being a Taysom Hill on steroids.
Yeah.
Like even like he has a hint of like George Kittle in him as well, even.
Yeah.
But this guy can do everything. This guy, I mean, I'm watching him in the college football playoff last year. He's snapping the ball and doing the tush push, getting those quarterback sneaks. He's such a big body. He runs so hard. Like he runs so hard that when he gets running downhill, you always want to get out of the way. It's like Peyton Hill or something.
Love that
And he is an absolute monster, man. And then obviously the catch radius, the ability to go up and get balls. This guy is. He's kind of got a bit of even Gronkowski in him too. He's like a Gronkowski, Kittle, and Taysom Hill mix. And I'm not going to put the expectation on him right away to come in and have a Brock Bowers type season or anything like that. But I do think this guy is going to be a problem in the NFL. And if Anthony Richardson can really get that accuracy dialed in, and because we know Richardson can throw it downfield, there's no denying that. But can Richardson make the right reads and be able to complete the easy ones on a consistent basis? If he can do that, then he definitely has the ability to be, the long-term play there and here in Indy. But having a guy like Tyler Warren's just going to make your life easier. The things that you can, the schemes and the things that you can run for this guy is endless. This guy can virtually do anything on the field. And I think Shane Steichen would be stoked to have a guy like Tyler Warren on that offense.
Yeah, this is an easy pick for the Colts, and they need a tight end bad. From a fantasy standpoint, so I do have Warren on my regular big board, not fantasy related, really high up, and on the fantasy board as well as one of my top prospects. I believe he's number 4 on my list. Love his game. I won't be surprised if, in a few years we're talking Brock Bowers and Tyler Warren as your 2 best tight ends in football. I think he's just a phenomenal player. But from a fantasy standpoint, if he does wind up on the Colts, he will be moving down my list just a little bit because Anthony Richardson is, unless he improves, he's atrocious. throwing the ball. Even in the short target range, this dude is just highly inaccurate. Um, he is going to have to work on that. And if he's able to, like, obviously he can have big throws and big moments and things will happen. Um, but he's got I don't know, he's got a lot of work to do. And so Tyler Warren would be a pick that would drop on my board a little bit in fantasy drafts, just because I do not trust Anthony Richardson. But I don't expect Anthony Richardson to be the quarterback there long term. So I'm sure they'll get somebody else in there that can actually get him the ball, even if that's Daniel Jones. But yeah, Tyler Warren makes sense at 14 for sure.
Yeah, I certainly hope Richardson gets a turnaround. There was obviously a lot of red flags this last year with quitting and during the play, and it seemed like there was some turmoil going on in the locker room. But man, there's no denying what this guy, his potential could be. He's just got to develop and stay healthy.
Yeah,
if he can develop and stay healthy, this guy very well could be a Cam Newton type player in this league, but. Obviously, he's got there's some development that's got to happen first there.
Now, I don't know if it's a confidence thing or what it is. There's something that's not all there. He's not making the throws and the reads that he should, but it is things that you can work with and improve. So hopefully they do, and Warren is fantasy relevant. But that's going to bring up the Falcons at 15, and I think they're going to go Michael Williams, the edge out of Georgia. I think they're going to go edge in general here. There's so many edge rushers, especially at this point in the draft, that I could see them going. But this dude is long arm, really big frame, 6'5", just a great defensive, prototypical edge rusher that can come in and make a difference on the defensive side of the ball and just really improve their defense. It's kind of what they need. They've hopefully got their quarterback in Penix. They've got a good running back in Robinson. They've got London, who really came on last year. Pitts is still, even though he hasn't performed to the level that we expected him to, he's still a fine tight end. So they do have the pieces on offense. Get that defense worked on. Add yourself an edge rusher. Michael Williams is the pick there. And that brings up the Cardinals at 16. Who do you have the Cardinals going with there? Pick number 16.
Yeah, if you would have asked me this a couple weeks ago at Tedera McMillan would be sitting here at 16, I would have probably said there's no way. But, man, I don't know. The more I think about it, just the more that the whole not watching tape is just red flagish. And that, if I'm a general manager or owner of a team, it's, I don't know, having any sort of like cancerous type person in the locker room is going to end up being a net negative for the team. And I'm not saying that that's him or anything like that, but man, that's just the last thing you want to hear from a player you're getting ready to draft. Use a super high asset and a high draft asset to draft somebody. Is the last thing you want to hear him saying is they don't need to watch film, because let me tell you, and once you might be able to get away with that playing in Arizona, but you will not get away with that playing in the NFL. These guys are too good, and you're going to be going up against elite talent on a weekly basis every game. And if, depending on where you go, if you're the number one guy on that team, you're going to be seeing the opposing team's best corner every single game. So careful what you wish for there. But I do think McMillan falls down to 16 in this case. We certainly could see him go higher. I mean, there's definitely opportunities there. The Cowboys are at need. The Cowboys really like the only team sitting there that could make sense outside of the top 10. I mean, I don't really see San Fran, Miami now, Indianapolis now. Falcons, they definitely need defense. So, yeah, if he doesn't go to Dallas, I think probably his next destination would be the Cardinals then.
Yeah.
But add another young wide receiver there in Arizona to pair with Marvin Harrison Jr. They would just make their offense that much more lethal. And there's no denying this guy's skill set. I mean, he's 6'4", long wingspan. Guy's a good deep threat. He doesn't have he's not the fastest player in the draft, but great ball skills, good route running, and definitely has the potential to be, top talent receiver in this league. But I sure hope that the visits with these teams went a little bit better than some of the comments that came out about the not watching the tape. That's not really what you want to hear if you're running an organization.
Yeah, that's a major red flag to hear something like that. And look, I imagine he'll be able to be professional and learn how to watch film and will put in the work. He's a great athlete. He's not the highest rated receiver in the world, especially these last couple seasons, but he's definitely a guy that can come in and be a strong number two for a team, possibly be a number one receiver in the right scenario. But I think here to the Cardinals makes sense. I think they go receiver in the first round, whether McMillan falls to them or not. They need to add somebody to kind of help Harrison out a little bit, to add another weapon for Murray. They've got McBride there at tight end, so another weapon on that offense will help improve it. And I think a receiver makes sense there. If McMillan does wind up in Arizona, for me, from a fantasy standpoint, I think it drops him a little bit, only because they've got Harrison and they've got McBride who are going to see the majority of those targets. But so I think it kind of lowers his range of outcomes. But same thing in Dallas as well. I don't think it's going to be bad by any means, but some people are drafting him as a top three guy, and I think there'd be some running backs I'd want over him if that's the landing spot. That's going to bring up the Bengals at 17. And I think these guys could go a few different routes, but they've put a lot of money on the offensive side of the ball. And maybe they add a lineman here, but they are not going to have money for the defensive side of the ball. So the only way you can really improve that defensive side of the ball is through the draft. And I think if you get a prospect like James Pierce Jr., it's hard to pass up on this guy. He's another one of those freak athletes, runs a 4.47, 40. He's big, 6'5", 240. Just super quick first step, and can get around the edge really quick. Similar to Shamar Stewart, as being just this phenomenal prospect. Where I get concerned with, it's just him taking plays off, and that could be a liability. We've seen as Bears fans watching players like Tyreek Stevenson take a play off, how detrimental that can be for a team. So hopefully he gets into a situation where.
Oh crap! Oh, we're in the middle of a game. Oh yeah.
We absolutely do not want players at any point moving forward to ever take a playoff. So
And then
that's
Matt the morons over there like.
that did not know what's going on. But James Pierce, he's a great prospect, and a name that I could see fall to the late first round, possibly even a second round pick. Honestly, just because of the concern with some of the things he's said and on tape, just you see him not play with a high motor every single play. So. But still, really good prospect, and the Bengals need to add defensive pieces if they're going to try to help establish winning culture there in Cincinnati long term. So that's going to bring up the Seattle Seahawks at 18. You got the Seahawks here. Who do the Seahawks take?
Yeah, I think with the Seahawks, with their current situation, bringing in a Sam Darnold, paying him that money, and obviously shout out to Sam Darnold for the turnaround he had, with Minnesota. But hey, we also know playing in Seattle isn't the same situation as playing in Minnesota. As Minnesota's, definitely got a bit more going on between the coach, obviously the talent. I mean, can't deny what Minnesota has, and Jay Jettas and them boys and whatnot over there. But I think Seattle just looks to improve that offensive line here. They have some solid weapons there for the most part. With Jackson Smith and Jigma, it looks like Tyler Lockett's going to be walking, but they got nice running backs. So I think that they look to improve that offensive line and allow Sam Darnold to actually really be able to get the ball out of his hands. And I have Seattle going Kelvin Banks Jr. here. Kelvin Banks Jr. a big tackle, has good hands, nice footwork. Definitely is going to be a little bit of a project piece. He's going to need some development, but he's got the ideal size for the position and nice athleticism, and we'll see what he ends up being, but I think that he makes a lot of sense in Seattle.
Yeah, I think you've got to protect the quarterback you just gave money to. I could see them going receiver here if depending on how they view a Matthew Golden, or Emeka Luka, a player like that. They did add Cooper Cup in the offseason, so they do have some good receivers there with JSN and Cooper, but Cup's up there in age, and JSN can't be the guy forever. So depending on where they've got some of these receivers rated, I could see them going that route. But I think you can't go wrong with a guy like Banks. He's a proven lineman, and you got to help out the quarterback you just paid. So definitely makes sense. You got the Buccaneers up right after them at 19, and this is one of the picks that I think if this guy is on the board, I would almost bet the house this is where they go, and I think they're going to take Jahdae Barron out of Texas, the cornerback. Um, just a perfect fit. This guy can play all over the place, super versatile in the secondary, great tackler, great playmaker. I don't have him rated too far behind Will Johnson in my list. He's one of my higher. He's in my top 15 out of the prospects. So getting him at 19 is an absolute steal. Just an absolute perfect fit for Tampa Bay. They need to add some defensive pieces. They've got their offensive pieces in place. So I don't think there's a need there necessarily at this point in the draft. I've got them going defense there with Barron. So that's going to bring up the Broncos at 20. An interesting pick. Who do you have the Broncos going with? Pick 20.
Yeah, a little bit. Have them, kind of, going a little bit unexpected here. Although I have seen some mocks going this way. I think I've seen some mocks, but I have them going Amari and Hampton here. I think Denver needs a running back. They showed last year that they're a team on the rise, and just adding another piece to that offense is certainly going to help them improve that, and that's kind of where they show it up. They got obviously a really good defense, one of the best defenses in the NFL last year, and I think for them they just need another weapon on the offensive end, and I think Hampton can check all those boxes for them. I don't think he's really anywhere close to Genty's level, and I think you can actually make the case that there's some other running backs in this draft that are. Maybe better prospects for the NFL than Hampton, but man, Hampton's numbers don't lie. He had a heck of a season, and if it wasn't for Genty, I think we possibly could be talking about this guy in a different manner here. So I think Denver goes Hampton here, and that's where they go.
Yeah, it's become a more popular pick I've noticed in mocks recently. Hampton here at 20, and I think it makes sense. He seems to be the right fit for that offense, what they're trying to do. He's big, powerful back. He can receive the ball out of the backfield. While he doesn't necessarily have the same game, in my opinion, I do think it's kind of close to a Breece Hall. To me, Breece Hall can move better laterally, way better than Hampton can. He seems to be more of a north and south guy, but he can receive the ball out of the backfield similar to Breece, and he can wear down a defense if he has to, and I think that's kind of what Denver wants out of a back. I think that's what they wanted out of a Javonte Williams back when he was their running back. So Hampton makes perfect sense. I can't see them going a different route other than running back. It could be another running back here at 20, but I do think they go running back with their first round pick. And if they do, this jumps him up fantasy boards. Not too far off of Genty. If you're not in a super flex league, you could look at Hampton at the number 2 overall pick in your fantasy league. So, I like it. Hampton to the Broncos. That brings up the Steelers with pick 21. This is an interesting pick. I've been wrestling with this one a lot today, specifically. I think, based on what I'm reading and coming across, I do think they're going to still go defensive tackle, and I think they like Derek Harmon a lot. So that's who I have them going with here, pick 21. The D tackle out of Oregon. There's a few defensive tackles I do like. There's a Walter Nolan, who's another one that should be probably a first rounder. I could see them going. But they need help there on their defensive line, and Harmon fills much need for them. But right now they don't have a quarterback, and I don't know if it's going to be Aaron Rodgers there. Even if it is Aaron Rodgers there, Aaron Rodgers is playing, another year? I don't see him playing 2 more years. He might not even play too big of a question. I could see them go quarterback here. And I don't know. I have a weird feeling that they have Jalen Milroe rated higher than Jackson Dart, based off the prospect that he is. But I've just wrestled this pick so much because Milroe is another guy that's big arm runner, and they just had that guy with Justin Fields and let him go. They didn't do everything to bring him back. So maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Dart is the guy that they prefer. But I've heard a lot of Steelers fans hope they get Milroe to kind of combat Lamar Jackson in that conference. But they don't have a second round pick since they traded it away to Seattle to get DK Metcalf, which is the only thing that's made me kind of wrestle with this pick, that they could go quarterback here. But I think that they are expecting Rodgers to be around, and maybe they look at quarterback in a future season. So they go Harmon here, the defensive tackle. They fill the need. So that's where I got the Steelers going. Bringing up the Chargers right after them at pick 22. Where do you see the Chargers going?
Yeah, going back on the Steelers, if they're putting all their eggs in the Aaron Rodgers basket, man, they might be in a world of trouble here. I don't know. I don't know what to think on the Aaron Rodgers front, and that is certainly a tough pick. You know, it could be a possible trade up, possibly. I mean, there's been conversations about them trading up, you know, for a Shador Sanders potentially. So we'll see what plays out there. But you're right about that. That's a tough pick, and that's very interesting to see what Steelers do if they go quarterback, if they go defense. Yeah. Man, it's tough. We'll see. But on the Chargers front, I think this is kind of an easy one. If a Colston Loveland's still sitting there, I think the Chargers go ahead. I mean, there's lots of like with Loveland, big body, good athleticism, good catch radius. You know, solid route runner. Definitely has some work to do on the pass blocking game. And I know Harbaugh doesn't probably love that part of his game, but hey, if anybody knows this guy, it probably is Harbaugh, who used to be his coach at Michigan. So I think this is a pretty easy pick for the Chargers. As I'm not saying that they're regretting the Joe Wall pick, but I know a lot of Chargers fans were hoping that they would get a Brock Bowers last year, as tight end has been a position of need for them for a couple seasons now. But yeah, they're sitting there at 22, and then Colston Loveland still sitting there. I'd have a hard time thinking that Harbaugh doesn't want to get reunited with his old buddy from Ann Arbor, Colston Loveland.
Yeah, if Loveland's here, easy pick. They go that route. Harbaugh loves his Michigan guys. It fills a need, and he's a guy that is loved by many. I think he's going to be able to come in and be a solid tight end at the NFL level. So makes sense. I personally think in my mock that Loveland's going to be gone before this pick. So we shall see. I think I could see the Colts going that route because I've got a feeling Warren's going to go in the top 10, but we'll find out. I'm excited to see how that all plays out. But that brings up the Packers at pick 23, and I think if this is how this plays out, and you get a speedy receiver on the board here that could be a playmaker to really help provide some kind of jolt for this offense. They didn't have a receiver even. I don't believe any receivers even hit 900 receiving yards last season. Jayden Reed was their number one guy, and it felt like Jayden Reed was horrible all year from a fantasy standpoint. So I've got them going Matthew Golden, the wide receiver out of Texas, the 4.29 40-yard dash running Matthew Golden. Look, he's drawing comparisons to Tyreek Hill. I don't see that level necessarily, but Tyreek Hill also wasn't this highly touted prospect necessarily. It took him a minute to get developed in the NFL. He was obviously a prolific returner to start out before he really developed the skills at the receiver position, and it may take some time for Golden, but they need help at wide receiver, and they need help with an edge rusher. So I think those are the two routes that they're looking at. I personally have them going Shamar Stewart in my mock at this point. I think that's where he's going to end up falling. And I have Matthew Golden going before this pick, but if he's there, I think the Packers would love to add him. And look, the draft's also in Green Bay this year, so why not make kind of a splash pick, get yourself a receiver, something they do not normally do. The fans there, I think, would go absolutely wild and be pretty excited for that, and so would Jordan Love. So see the Packers going with Golden there at 23. That brings up the Minnesota Vikings pick 24 in the first round. Where do you see those guys going?
Yeah, and we kind of did a breakdown on this when we did our NFC North mock draft, and we both had Minnesota going safeties here. And in this case, with Malachi Starks still sitting there, I have them going Malachi Starks. I do like Emanway a lot too, but I lean a little bit more towards Malachi Starks. I think he's just got a little bit better tackling. And man, that's having a safety that can make key tackles is just it's a game changer, whether it's, games or touchdown saving tackles or whether it's, collapsing down low and making big tackles before the first down. It's just always a big asset to have a big body and a guy that's athletic that can make big tackles. And Starks does that, I think, better than anybody in this draft. So I think Minnesota goes safety there. Another Georgia guy off the board. It just seems like we're drafting Georgia guys like crazy, but hey, that's the SEC and even the Big Ten there for you. I mean, most of these guys are coming from those two conferences, but giving Malachi Starks there for Minnesota at pick 24.
Feels like a perfect fit for Minnesota. Just a high football IQ type of guy. They always seem to have a pretty good player in the secondary there, safety position. So would fill a hole for those guys. Makes a lot of sense, and we've covered that pretty extensively. So agree completely with Starks to Minnesota. Brings up Houston at 25. Easy pick. I don't think they take much time to consider this one. Josh Simmons, the tackle out of Ohio State. Look, he was hurt, missing time, but this dude is an absolute animal. Many have him even as if he were to be fully healthy and have been fully healthy this last year, possibly the best lineman in the draft even. The Houston Texans desperately need help on the line. And they have not addressed the line like the Chicago Bears have, who have also needed it. They've moved Tunsil. They need help. And so Texans fans, it's going to be a boring draft for you because I think they're just going to hammer out offensive line players one after another, but it's what they need. And Simmons is just absolute easy pick here at 25. If he's there at 25, that's a steal, in my opinion. So brings up the Rams at pick 26. Where do you see the Rams going?
Yeah, and to go back on the Texans pick, yeah, they kind of have no choice there but to go line. I mean, and Simmons is an easy pick there if he's sitting there at 25, but it doesn't really make a ton of sense to me why they moved on from Tunzel. They need the help there, and obviously you got a young quarterback that's not. I wouldn't say he's degressing, but he didn't progress in year two like you were hoping he would, but he also set the bar really high in year one. So we'll see how that progresses there. But
we're on CJ Stroud, I think two things are true. I think people overreacted year one and really got behind the hype. I think he showed a lot of great things, don't get me wrong, but the team had a lot of success, and I think people overreacted. Then also year two, how poor he looked and how bad that team looked. Again, I think people are overreacting in that sense too. I think he's a fine quarterback. I think he'll be okay. He needs help on the line. He lost a receiver in Tank Dell to injury, and look, that team was just riddled.
Receivers,
yes,
yeah. I mean,
riddled with injuries all season long. So get some offensive line help. Get those guys healthy again. The Texans are going to be just fine.
Yeah. No, exactly. Diggs and then Nico and Collins and obviously Tank Dell. I mean, they literally were down everybody this last year. So honestly, the fact that he still found a way to get them to the playoffs just shows what he's capable of doing. And that's still he's a young quarterback. It's not like he's not a veteran in this NFL. He's only going into his third season this year. So yeah, you definitely need to bolster that offensive line and protect him at all costs. He's your franchise guy going forward. But going to pick 26 with the Rams, definitely a lot of directions the Rams could go here. But I think they go with Jahad Campbell. He's a linebacker at Alabama. Another SEC guy off the book. But, man, this guy is just he's just an athletic freak. He's versatile, can play on the inside, can play on the outside. He can, rush the quarterback, had 5 sacks this last year, 119 tackles. And just his combination of speed and coverage skills just makes him a good 3 down linebacker in the NFL. And man, I don't know. I think that makes a lot of sense for the Rams' needs, as they certainly could use somebody there
Yeah.
at that position.
Yeah, this has felt to me like the pick, like a match made in heaven. Since the beginning, I've had Campbell projected to go here. It will not surprise me if he is off the board though before pick 26. I think the Bengals, if they want to play it more safe and not take a risk on a James Pierce, Campbell could certainly go there. If not even before that, I think he's a phenomenal linebacker, and I have him as a top 15 prospect. So getting him here at 26, an absolute steal. I think
It's crazy how. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think that if he were to be off the board before this pick, don't be surprised if the Rams do go Jackson Dart to bring in this quarterback to replace Stafford when he decides to hang it up. We've seen guys like Jordan Love go in this range, take some time to really develop, and Jackson Dart, I don't think is a player that you want to bring in to start right now. I think he does need time to develop. Same with Milrow. Anybody outside of even Sanders to an extent, I would love to see him not get thrown right into the wolves on a bad team, especially if he goes on a team that has a good line or some good pieces there to help him out. That's one thing, but the last thing you want to see is a guy get thrown in there too early. So if Campbell's off the board, I do think they go Jackson Dart here in the first round. But go ahead, you were mentioning something before I got.
Yeah, no, 100% there on that front. I would not be surprised whatsoever if the Rams go in the direction of a quarterback. As it's Man, it's hard saying how much longer Matt Stafford's going to even want to play. I mean, this could be his last season for all we know, but I'd like to think he's still got a little bit more gas in the tank. But I was just going to throw in there that it's crazy how this draft, how we're talking about players, how they have the potential to go like multiple picks ahead, but could fall so much lower. It seems like this is one of those drafts where like a player's potential could be go 11, 12, but or they could potentially fall to like 27.
Yeah.
Like that's one of those weird drafts where it's like it could fall like not just a couple picks. We're talking 10, 15 picks lower, and it's hard saying.
It's one of those. It's one of the. I don't know the last time it's happened, but we got every team as of right now owns their pick in the first round. So they are going to be drafting their needs, their biggest needs, and not every team's needs the same. So you got a player like a Jahad Campbell who could be the 13th pick, 14th, in that range, but also he might be a second rounder. I think there's a lot of guys that are fringe first or second rounders. It's really hard to tell. It's really going to depend on how teams view their biggest need. And the other thing too is first round picks get that 5th-year rookie option. So does a team take a guy like Jalen Milrow to be able to have him for that extra year, to have that option to take a chance on a guy like that and take him a little earlier than they would? It's another thing to consider, but it is a deep draft. It's a fantastic draft. I mean, I don't know how many superstars are going to come out of this draft, but I think there's a lot of quality players in it. And one pick that we get wrong could completely change the trajectory of this whole entire thing, and we could be off the rest of the way because it's hard to tell, but.
Yeah, for sure. There's not obviously a ton of blue chip talent in this draft, but man, just depth across the board.
Yeah.
And great for a team like Chicago that's got 3 picks in the top 41. So man, exciting stuff here this week.
Yes, this is definitely a good draft to have as many picks these first couple rounds as you can. Brings up the Ravens at 27. I've got them going with offensive lineman Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State. Zabel performed well in the Senior Bowl and really shocked people with his athleticism and his ability. This is just filling another need. They need some help on the offensive line. You got a quarterback in Lamar Jackson. You want to continue to protect him and add pieces to protect him. Zabel is my highest rated guard. I like him over Booker. I was trying to project him even going to the Dolphins early on, but I don't know if he's going to go that high, but it wouldn't surprise me. I like his game a lot. Super athletic for his size and position. So Ravens just keep adding to that offensive line. And I think if they decide to go a different route, it'd be maybe an edge rusher. There's plenty of guys that are still on the board at this point, and could see them go that way. Even if there maybe the Rams do bypass Campbell and he's still there. I think that's a perfect fit for the Ravens as well. A guy like Jahad Campbell. So they got a couple options they could go with, but I think offensive line makes sense here with the way this draft has fallen. That's going to bring out the Detroit Lions at pick 28. Where do you see those guys going?
Yeah, and we going back on the Ravens. We know that the Ravens love their linebackers there, so
For sure.
and they got a good one right now, and old Roquan. But man, before the Bears were going to, before the Bears had signed Drew Dahlman in free agency, that was the pick that I had circled there for the Bears was Gray Zabel. I mean, obviously not at 10, but that would have been, in my opinion, a good trade back.
Trade back, grab Zabel.
Spot to go, but trading back and taking someone like him as his versatile in that guard center position. But obviously they went in a different direction in free agency and ended up signing Drew Dahlman there. But for the 28 for Detroit, same pick I had him going in our last mock draft, our NFC North mock draft. I had him going Nick Scorton, so I won't go into a ton of detail there. But just another, powerful edge, big body, 6'4", 280. And then just combine, his size, quickness, it makes him effective in both the run and the pass. Isn't the most versatile, pass rusher in the whole wide world. Nice, solid run stopper, but not super. Not doesn't have a lot of different abilities rushing the passer. He's kind of a bull guy, bull rush type of pass rusher. But man, he's definitely big and strong and. If he can, develop in the NFL and learn some other moves, he definitely could be someone to be reckoned with. So, and then obviously, Detroit definitely could use some help there at edge. We went into detail on the last episode or episode 2, I believe. Obviously, there's some uncertainty with Hutchinson there with his injury last year.
Yeah.
So. I think it's just a safe pick for them. They need more depth there. You just never know what could happen.
Yeah, I mean we mentioned it earlier. You can never have too much depth when it comes to rushing the passer. So I could see them going that route. And when we did the NFC North mock, you had them going with receiver in the second round, which I think makes the most sense. I do think if there is a guy like Emeka Egbuka on the board here. The Lions are always looking to make a fun pick, add some dynamic offensive weapons to that roster. So I could see them go that route, but Scorton just adds depth there. They need it, and so definitely see them going with an edge or defensive piece here in the first round. Brings up the Commanders at 29, and I've got them going Nick Emenwari, the safety. I think he's super talented. I don't think he's that far off of Malachi Starks when it comes to his ability. He's another really big dude, really quick, athletic, great instincts, and I think he'd be a steal for the Commanders here at 29 as they continue to really build a championship-winning team there in Washington. So I think it'd just be a really good fit there. If they were to go any other route, you could still see them add a receiver. Again, Egbuka, if he's available, he's going to be looked at by all these teams. I think he's just such a good route runner that he could become an asset for any of these guys. So, but Emenwari just seems to, I don't know. There's something about this pick, this draft location to Washington that just makes sense. I think if he's there, that's where they're going to end up going. Brings up the Buffalo Bills at 30, which you went a route that I wasn't expecting when we did this mock. I would have gone a different route, but nonetheless, who do you have the Bills going with, pick number 30?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of hard saying with these later teams because obviously these are the best teams in the NFL. And it is really kind of an interesting thought just to go off that all 32 teams do have their first round picks, which, you look usually, you get down to the bottom of the draft and it is interesting to see that all these teams that were the best teams in the NFL, they still have their first round pick. So it just goes to show that, not every, the best teams typically aren't building through trades and through giving up all their draft assets. They're building through the draft on a year-end basis. And as a Bears fan, we've seen the Bears get themselves in trouble over the years, making trades and whatnot. And you really just want to see your teams build through the draft. And and knock out that part of the process where they're drafting the right talent on a consistent basis. But I got the Bills going with Tyreek Williams, D tackle at Ohio State, and man, just provide more depth there. I don't know. There's definitely some directions they could go. Obviously, they got talent across the board, and they are in a true BPA position right now where they could go whoever they really want here. They think is best, but just more depth on the defensive line, I think certainly helps them. And Tyreek Williams, definitely some. You're gonna need some development work, but obviously a big guy, 335 pounds, strong and just good clog, able to clog running lanes and collapse the pocket at a high level. And again, coming out of another program, I mean, the talent that these teams like Ohio State are putting out is just absolutely absurd. I mean, their talent was just ridiculous this year. There's just players all across the draft, and their best player isn't even draft eligible. Their star wide receiver is last year too. So man, credit to the things Ohio State has been doing, although I can't stand them. But they do have a lot of talent, and they're consistently putting talent out into the NFL. So
Yeah,
credit to them.
I do agree with the fact that I think they go defense here. But I have been wrestling with this pick a little bit more, with the potential of if Luther Burden's there or in this situation Egbuka's there. I have a hard time thinking they'd pass up on a player of that caliber, but defensive tackle is a big need for them. Williams is a great prospect. I prefer Kenneth Grant over Williams here personally, and I think that Buffalo would prefer Kenneth Grant. It's a little bit bigger, a little bit quicker, and I think he can handle double teams a little bit better. I think he just is going to be an all-around better player than Williams, but can't go wrong. They're both going to be good defensive tackles at the NFL level, so makes sense. Brings up Kansas City at pick 31, and this is a pick where they also need help on the defensive line. They possibly could add help on the offensive line, but I've got them taking Kenneth Grant, the defensive tackle out of Michigan. I think he's a little overshadowed coming out of Michigan, playing with Mason Graham, but phenomenal prospects. And to get him here at 31 would be a steal for Kansas City. Hate to see them grab a player of this caliber here, but it's a deep draft. And if it's not Kenneth Grant, it's Walter Nolan. There's a lot of prospects here that I could see Kansas City getting. So I think it's just feels a good fit, fills a need for those guys, and Kenneth Grant would be the pick. And that's going to bring us to our final pick of this draft. Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl champions. These guys can seemingly go in pretty much any route. What route do you see these guys going with here, though, in this mock draft?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the Eagles, obviously they're the reigning champions, but they did lose some talent there on the defensive line here. This free agency, obviously, they had guys like Josh Sweat that they parted ways with, and lost some other players as well, and not able to pay those guys. That's kind of how it goes when you draft correctly over year after year after year. Eventually, if you do that well enough, some players you're just not going to be able to pay. So I think what makes the most sense to them is to go edge here. And what a better class to do it in. This class is just absolutely loaded at this position. And I have them taking a chance here on Donovan Izura. That's a tough one here. I've been practicing it, but it's not coming out right. Izir Uaku.
Crushed it, dude. Nailed it. Perfect.
Let's hear I got to hear yours now.
We'll wait for Roger Goodell to announce this one.
Yeah, I was gonna say
it's on the screen for people to see. You guys figure it out.
Yeah. Hey, good luck to you, Roger. You're gonna need it.
I always feel bad for him when you get names like you just so hard. I don't know. They're professionals for a reason. So.
Yeah, but exactly. I'm sure they practice a little more than me, but it's always a little bit risky going with guys that come out of programs like Boston College or like Mike Green out of Marshall. It's kind of hard saying 100% when they're not playing the top talent year after year. But hey, man, this guy had 16 and a half sacks this year, so it's say what you want about who he's playing. 16 and a half sacks is backing it up. And this guy had, a solid season here. So I do project Jonathan to have, to potentially be, a late first round pick, if not early second round pick. I do think he'll go in this and, go somewhere in this stretch from, late first to first 10 picks in the second round, I would say. But I think it makes the most sense for Eagles to go edge here, considering the circumstances of losing a couple of defensive linemen near this free agency. And I have him going Easy Raka out of Boston College.
Yeah, solid pick. I honestly think he could be potentially a good fit for Baltimore. A few picks before this even. You mentioned the 16 and a half sacks. Just for reference, Abdul Carter had 12. So, look, 16 and a half is a phenomenal amount to get to at the collegiate level, even if it's Boston College. That's a tied a school record for those guys. So, yeah, he's a great prospect. And the Eagles, in my opinion, would be getting a steal here with these guys. And, yeah, I could see them going pretty much any route. They could go offensive line, keep adding depth there. But they go at edge rusher and just continue to improve their pass rush. I mean, man, that sucks for all the other NFC teams. That just makes these guys that much better. So I like it, and that's gonna wrap up the round one of our mock draft. This is our alternating mock draft. It'll be the final mock draft that we do, obviously, before the draft on Thursday night. I do plan to do my final mock draft, probably to release it and post it. Probably do a graphic of some sort come Wednesday, and we'll get one thrown together for Ethan as well. That way we can see how we do for the draft on Thursday night. But yeah, that's gonna wrap up this episode. Super excited for Thursday for this draft and to see where these players go, because this one, I think it's gonna be a fun one. I think there's gonna be a lot of. I won't be surprised if we see a lot of trades, and I won't be surprised if we see things that happen that we're not expecting. This thing could go in so many different directions. So super pumped for that. Ethan, you got any final words or any last thoughts about this draft coming up?
No, I just second everything you said, man. There's nothing. NFL draft is always just one of the funnest times of the year, and it's really just the beginning of getting our excitement back for football season. Once the Super Bowl is over, we kind of have that dry stretch there where we're not necessarily thinking too much football until free agency, and then once the draft comes around, that's really when the excitement gets going again. And man, as a Bears fan, it's even though they've given me no reason to ever be excited, I am excited because they have put themselves in a position, through trades and with the draft capital they have, through the moves they made in free agency, to set themselves up to be able to be good. And I'm excited to see, where the direction they go here in this draft. And I'm praying that, an Ashton Jeanty falls to him. But no, yeah, I just, appreciate this episode as always. Appreciate everybody that, has been listening to these and been reaching out to us and supporting us. It certainly is greatly appreciated. And I appreciate all the feedback and DMs that we've been getting. But thanks for tuning into this one. And man, can't wait for Thursday to see how this all plays out here.
Absolutely. Real quick before we head out, I will do a fantasy football rankings list. I already have a pre-draft rankings list. If you join our Discord, you will be able to have access to that. But once these players we figure out where they're going, I will adjust those rankings and have those done before most people are doing their rookie drafts. So if you guys want to check that out, join the Discord. That link will be in the description below. We'd love to have you there. We do articles and post content there first. So feel free to join, and we'd love to have you. But as always, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.